Shalom, welcome to our daily class in Rebbe Nachman on Patreon. We're holding in Torah Kaf Chet, and we've been learning about how to fix the influence of these evil rabbis. He calls them Shin Dalad Yudeim Talmidei Hachamim. They know a lot of Torah, but unfortunately they're getting their Torah from the wrong place, and who would know if it's the right place or the wrong place or not? And he says, the main way we do that is through expressing kindness. And the greatest kindness in Judaism is to have guests over to your house, to feed them, to entertain them, to make them feel like kings for a little while, because the rest of the world is not going to make you feel like a king. But when you're a Jew and you sit at your Shabbos table and you bring guests over, you actually elevate everything. Because it's all about the food, it's about the day, it's with the songs and the prayers. You know, all of it comes together on Shabbos. And especially having guests. Because you're not only doing the charity of giving people food, which is, of course, charity, but you're also giving them your time, your space, hopefully your heart, and some divrei Torah along. This is not a bad idea. Okay, so this is how we elevate these, what he calls the fallen olives, with these lights that are up in the tree of life at the level of Leah, and they fall down to the other side, and it's part of the whole amazing map of the worlds, which is much larger than people realize. It's really like the whole universe is in that map. And so when those 5 olives fall, they need to be picked up, and we pick them up through this process that the Rebbe has been describing. And having guests is really the kindness that creates the vessel for the tikkun to take place. Now we're holding in the paragraph of 28 that says like this: Lavola chesed. How do we come to chesed? True kindness, right? And remember, Avraham Avinu started outreach by having people in his tent and feeding them and washing their feet and making them feel good after a long day in the desert. Lavola chesed. How do we do this? Efshar lavo ela yedei shechina yachnis talmidei hachamim tzadikim letoch beito. Well, to have people come to your house who are wise, who are learned, who are truthful and true. Ki amachnis orchim talmidei hachamim amitiim letoch beito keilu hakriv tamidim. The sages taught that somebody who brings a truly righteous, wise man into his house, it's as if he's brought a sacrifice in the Beit HaMikdash. Kamamar, as the sages taught in Masechet Brachot, Ish Kadosh Over Aleinu Tamid. Right, that's from Sefer Malachim. It's brought down, right, that they were commenting on the fact that Elisha would pass the house of the Shunamite, and she commented on this Ish Kadosh, and they made him a room that he could stay in. So they did this mitzvah, Hachnachet Orchim, having guests. And here, the having guests can be in many ways. Here it was an overnight guest, which everybody knows is even harder to have people in your house all night and get up and they want coffee in the morning too. Look at that. Anyways, so Ubezeh hashimush. Listen closely. And using this, or this shimush, is when you serve somebody, really. She'omed al aleihem u'meshamesh otam. Right? When you serve somebody, you actually learn more than they teach you. You receive more than the people even can intend to teach you. Because you see things they don't see about themselves. And this is just the way it works. When you serve somebody, you see things that they're not going to pay attention, because nobody can pay attention to everything that we do. Is my hat right? Is my beard out of whack? Everything you can't catch everything. But when you serve somebody, you pick up a lot on how they conduct themselves, how they speak, how they act, who they talk to. And so you see, the serving people actually gives you access to information that you would never get if you're just always eye to eye with everybody else. So this idea of serving people and bringing people into your house and giving them food is really a tremendous learning setup that the Torah gives us, that Judaism established the whole religion on. And, having, Baruch Hashem, 5 kids and raising them, they always ask us, who are we having for guests this week? Who's going to come over? Because, they were bored with their parents like most kids. Thank God I don't get bored with me, but I guess they do. Isn't that funny how that works? But, you bring people over, and Reb Meir Abba Sarah said you bring a whole world into your house when you bring a person into your house. Now, obviously, you want to have a little vetting, a little security about who you're bringing over. But this whole concept is at the basis of all of Judaism. And here we see it's also going to fix, this chesed is going to fix these previous concepts that we've been learning earlier in this Torah about the bad teachers that make people not only run away from Judaism, but they hate Judaism because of the bad teachers. Now, being who I am, sitting in my yeshiva in Jerusalem for 28 years, I met a lot of people that used to be religious, and they were done because they saw a bad side in the religion from bad teachers. Now, he calls them a much stronger name than bad teacher. He calls them, demon rabbis, Talmidei Hachamim, right, are rabbis, people that know the Torah. And yet they're getting their Torah through a bad filter. And we don't need to go about there now, but we want to fix that. We need to fix the influence on ourselves of those teachers, and we need to make sure that we don't learn from them. And ideally, we never even come in contact with them. Nonetheless, this is what we've been learning in this Torah 28 of Likutei Moharan and Rabbi Nachman. But today, this idea of kindness, of bringing wise people into your house to learn and to eat together. And thanks, Mike. Yeah, the demon rabbis. You got to be careful what you write on Facebook. They will I've been put in jail for phrases like that before. But they gave me bread and water and a place to sleep. Okay, so the continuation of the Torah goes on. Remember that Elisha went by and the Shunammite made for him a place. And by virtue of that, she got blessed to have a son who would become Habakkuk Hanavi, right? Because of the chibuk, the hugging that the prophet did to bring the child back to life when it passed out and passed away. Now, going further, Kol hamonea tamido milishamesho keilu moneo mimenu chassid. That's another statement from Masechet Tubot. Anybody who prevents his student from serving him, it's as if he's preventing chesed. You know how this comes out normally is like if you ask somebody if you can help them, they say no. And in the Torah world we say, you're not going to give me that chesed? I want to do you a chesed, you're giving me a chesed. But the rabbis take it seriously. It's moneo mimenu chesed. Because if I do a chesed for you, automatically God does a chesed for me. And so if you tell me not to do the chesed for you, then I'm preventing God from doing a chesed for me. So who's moneo, who chesed? We all need acts of kindness. Ubishvil zeh haya tamid keves. Now he tells us a very interesting thing. Because of what we just learned, the daily offering was a sheep, not a goat, not a cow, not a bull, not a deer, a sheep. Now sheep, I've been told, are incredibly stupid animals. They will follow each other off a cliff. They don't wake up. They're really considered, sheep, right? The sheep are connected to the tamid, the daily offering. Ki mimenu nitaknu alfin. But from them, he goes all the way to the top of the Kabbalah that we learned earlier in this Torah, that the 5 fallen olives that are part of the kavanot of the Arizal, when we say Hashem sifatai tiftach, right? We're opening speech. Now we have to understand, speech is actually a fall in the worlds. You're falling from your mind to your mouth. When you're in your mind meditating, you're in a very high state. The minute you talk, you come out of your high state into a lower state. And so this is reflected in the Kabbalah through the Kavanot of the Arizal, the Partzuf of Leah, as these olives. And they fall and they need to be fixed. And this is what he's telling us. This is how they're fixed. This idea of doing this chesed. And then he brings a pasuk that I am like the lead sheep. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It depends on where you're taking your flock. But certainly the sheep and the idea of sheep and shepherding is always, of course, about the relationship of the tzaddik and Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael. And so we understand the prophet is speaking in metaphor. This idea of the kevis is the idea of shekavush, is crushed under or it's dominated. It's the same letters, kavush, kevis, tachat yad rabo, that a student is like he's crushed under his rabbi's hand. Umishamesh otam, and then he serves them. Okay, so vazeh tamid, this is the daily offering, which is gematria 444, which is Aleph, 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 111 times 4 is 444. That's gematria tamid, the everyday offering. Tikkun va'alfin, and this is the fixing of those 4 alephs. Is each aleph is 101, 111, and the 4 together become the kavanah, the gematria of tamid. So you see how the kavanot of the Arizal are heavily reliant on the gematria of the letters that make up different names. And when you do the act, you activate the system of power. Okay, understand that. And you don't have to be a mukubal. You just have to know it, that this is happening, and you learn it, and then when you daven like a simple Jew, and you're fine. V'zeu lemi midanim lemi siach. Okay, another piece from Mishlei. Shlomo Melech said, "Who will we be judged by? Who will we talk to?" It's kind of like a little bit of an exasperation of tone there. Ayinu ayedei siach, that is through talking. The talking of these demon rabbis, as he calls them, ayedei hacham shin daled yudai, through this wise person who is not so wise because he's attached to the wrong place. Ayado midanim, they create judgment. And that also, ayado, through him comes hitnagdut, opposition, negativity, and all the things that we didn't become religious for in the first place, and we didn't come looking for Torah truth in the first place. But this is a test. If you're a learned person and you know a lot of Torah, great, that's wonderful. Kach notzarti, right? That's why God created us this way, to learn Torah. But if we use it in the wrong way, and we take the power from the wrong place, then it becomes, of course, a form of ego. This is how cults get started, and the Jewish people have had a few cults along the way, I'm sure, if you recall our history. Okay, but now the Rebbe is going to loop back to the very beginning of the Torah, which was another one of these rabbis that went to Greece or Rome, because they went to both places, but they would have had intellectual discussions with the rabbis, and the wise men of Athens would love to try to trick or propose statements that would be difficult to answer, because they knew the rabbis are very smart, and they said, "Build us a house in the air." So the rabbi, he said a divine name, and he flew up in the air. He levitated, and then he called down to them, "Okay, bring me the bricks and the mortar. You wanted me to build a house in the air? Well, I still need the bricks and the mortar in the air to go along with me, the builder." And they said, "Who would ever be able to bring bricks and mortar into the air to build a house?" And he said to them, "Well, who would ever build a house in midair?" And so that's the little story. And Rebbe Nachman takes this to another whole place completely. And the next big long paragraph is going to deal with the metaphoric interpretation of that little bit story that we just told. And it has to do with the fixing of these demon rabbis, these guys that you want to stay away from. But we're going to come back to that tomorrow. I want to bless you all. Keep working hard. Don't ever give up, because if you don't give up, you will win. That's the way it works here in this world. We don't quit, we win. The only losing is quitting. God bless you all. We'll see you again tomorrow.